To develop a good tremolo takes some discipline and persistence. I have created this 32-day e-tremolo course to make this process as easy as possible for you. You only need to spend about 10 minutes a day for 32 days. I hope that using this program, developing tremolo, will be as easy as it can be for you. Hi there, and welcome to the fourth and the last of my Reach the Next Level live streams, where I'll be sharing a lot of my ideas about guitar playing. And up until now, all these sessions have been really quite technical or very technical, and today it's going to be a little different, because today we're going to kind of look more musically, and we're going to look more into the music, although there will be of course some learning tips there as well. Well, this gorgeous composition, Un sueño en la floresta, written by Agustin Barrios Mangure. Well, who is this man? And of course we know him sort of as a Latin American composer, and himself sort of kind of changed his names over the times in his life. I think so. See here, Agustin Pio Barrios. Here's the young Barrios. And actually, what we need to bear in mind is that Un sueño la floresta was, as they think, was written around. You can see me. I can go over here. It was written around. By the way, I hope you can all hear me well. Yes, microphones seem to be going. Yes, that. Barrios. Here we can see. This composition, Un sueño en la floresta, was written in 1917, quite early. Bear in mind, Recuerdos de la Alhambra was written in 1899, right? I think, or somewhere around there. Just really around that century. So it's like, and Barrios was actually only around, his early 30s when he wrote this composition. So actually the pictures we see here is before and after that. And later on, as you see, Barrios played with his name here. Nitsuga is Agustin, you see that? Agustin Nitsuga. And that was, he was trying to sort of find his way back to his more, his sort of Native American background. And it was also kind of a rebranding and a way to market himself. As you can see on the picture, he dressed up like an Indian chief. And I mean, he was really a very, very, very interesting artist. And but in any case, Un sueño en la floresta was actually originally called, let's see here, I can see here, Un souvenir de un rêve. Okay. So, this is, I don't know, French, as I understand, is souvenir, is a memory of a dream. Okay? So the dream was already there, but saying that, now, I think when you say, oh, so memory of a dream, it's hard to not kind of make a link with Recuerdos de la Alhambra, so memories of the Alhambra. So the memories is there, but now it's dream. And then instead of the memories, the final title, which he changed until later, and maybe because this music in a way changed for him and it suited better his new kind of image as an Indian chief. So, Un sueño en la floresta, a dream in the glade, or a dream in the forest. But, well, actually I'm going to play you this piece, and then we're going to look at quite some detail, but in a way, without spoiling too much, although it's a very, especially when we think of it as Un sueño en la floresta, then it seems very sort of Latin American, I would say. But in many ways, when you think souvenir d'un rêve, we understand that, I think at least, Barrios was really trying to, he was writing in a kind of European romantic style, really, more than anything. And with a lot of kind of, in a way, admiration, I think, for Bach and for Chopin. Anyway, more about that later. Today I will talk more about this guitar in a minute. This is a brand new guitar, and it's a kind of, this and another instrument have just arrived, and these are some of the earliest guitars available of the sueño guitars. So this is the Sueño Limited. I will tell you some more about that later. Well, so nice to have you here. As we go on here, feel free to send comments, questions. I know this is a piece that many people play or want to play at least. And I think so, especially if you are thinking about learning this piece, this could be a very informative session a bit later on, because you will get a better kind of orientation. Some coffee here, because I love a piece. Here we go. Wow, that is such a gorgeous piece of music, isn't it? I feel that. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how much I like that piece in a second. And I see here we have some cool comments. Oh, wow. Martin, greetings from Argentina. What is special about the frets in your guitar? Well, this is one thing I'm going to get to a little bit later. This guitar is a kind of a crazy attempt to make the kind of absolutely best guitar we can in the world. So these guitars are true frets are true temperament frets that are adjusted to increase our intonation. Thank you, Regina. Thank you so much. Mark, I see you play tremolo with a straight wrist at an angle to the strings rather than square on. Did you take you a while to find the right hand position to work the best for you? Absolutely. Actually, as a matter of fact, last week there was a whole session on tremolo, but yes, the tremolo, it's because, to brief that very quickly, the way I train tremolo, the very first thing I do is just to keep the thumb in a fixed position, and then, because I want to find the position of the hand where the fingers can just kind of be as natural as possible. Let's see what else we have here. Flowing tremolo. Thank you, Sunil. So nice to have you here. And I was a little late over there in India. Thank you for posting these videos. I've been doing your left hand warm-up that you posted in the fundamental lessons, and I've really liked the results I've been getting. It's the 5/8 0 extra. Yes, definitely. Thank you. I'm very glad. Yes, those exercises are designed to just automatically they force you into a very good position, and then you get used to that, and then that will flow in your pieces. Ortegeir, hello, beautiful. Thank you so much. Franz, lovely to see you, dear Johannes, and listen to you always. Interesting, touching, and inspiring stuff, and admire also the intense amount of dedication and work, love for the guitar, and for communication with the rest of us. Oh, thank you, Franz. You are so wonderful. Mark, hello. Brian from the UK. Good to have you back. You were here last week too, I think. Nice guitar. It sings very nicely. Yeah, so here we go. Let's talk a bit about the guitar. This is part of the Sueño limited edition. And this is, first of all, these are what makes this guitar truly limited guitar is that we used here a spruce that comes from the Swiss Alp. It's known as moon spruce. And that is because it's cut in a particular time of the year and the month where the tree has less water in it, and that is affected by the moon. You measure that by the moon. And this is a rare selection. So this is 1 in 1,000 trees get used for guitar. And from those, I've selected even the 1% of that. And they're so rare, you're actually only allowed to purchase 2 pieces of that very rare quality per person per year. So, and the top of a guitar truly is the most important thing. And this is a double top guitar. And a lot of people might think, oh, with a double top guitar, you use such a thin layer of wood that it doesn't matter as much. But actually, in my experience, is that it matters even more. And I think what the result here really is, you can hear the moon spruce because it's so even. I remember picking this piece up when it was just wood, and that now it sounds just the same. And in the workshop where they've been doing this, it's also been done with a particular polish that it's way thinner and but still strong, in order to really get that kind of popping sound of that top. So it's also very much, so it's a double top, it's also lattice braced, it has true temperament frets, we have the elevated fretboard, and this whole, why do I bring this up today? Well, because it's about Un Sueño en la Floresta, and I like that piece so much that basically I took Barrio's name of this piece to this guitar series. So this is part of this is Sueño limited guitar. We're also releasing the Sueño series because of course these limited edition guitars do come with a bit of a price because of the complexity of the whole production and the materials. But we are releasing within 3-4 months the Sueño series, which is still an absolutely perfect high-class concert guitars. More to this guitar, this rosette, as you can see here, have actually been designed by a tattoo artist. And this was actually created first many years ago. I commissioned this, and then now it's been handmade with mother of pearl. And it was actually this, you can't see it so well here now, that resulted into becoming the Molarculture logo. Anyway, if somebody wants to know more about this guitar, there's a lot of information on my website, johannesmoller.com/guitars, or you can just find, in the menu, guitars. If you're interested in that, as you know, I'm crazy about guitars, and Sueño Limited is about, it's called limited, but in a way I want to call it unlimited, because it should be, we didn't compromise on anything, we just tried to make the most wonderful guitar we could. And this guitar is sort of like one of those, it just sort of pops, the sound it plays itself, it's wonderful. Whoever will, and I'm using a bottomless shirt today so that I don't scratch it, because the guitar is for sale, so whoever would have this guitar will be extremely pleased, I'm sure. I'm already considered not selling it and keep it myself. But anyway, it's a special moment for me. And well, anyway, let's go back to, because this is the Sueño guitar, but now let's actually talk about the Sueño piece. What happened to my focus? There I am. Let's now get into it. So, let's just talk a little bit about our intro here. First of all, actually, before we say anything, what makes this piece truly remarkable in terms of the sonority is that he's tuning the 5th string to G and the string 6 to D. And on top of that, so you can tune lower, but at least at this time this was pretty standard. We should also be aware that he was also tuning, he played with steel strings a little bit, and he was tuning generally, at least on the recordings, way lower. So you get a really kind of low, deep sound with those retunings. And now if anyone who knows this piece or just heard it when I played it, you saw I was going really right up, all the way to the C, which is actually one of the reasons. This piece is perhaps the reason why, at least for me, that I always wanted to have a C so that I can play that piece. Now, so there's this combination of very low sounds and very high sounds. It's a very incredibly rich sounding composition. Okay, now as I said earlier, when he didn't call it Un Sueño en la Floresta, it was called Souvenir d'un Rêve. So in any case, what's going on in this intro? And now I'm going to also be a little bit practical about how to learn and interpret things. I have written this out a little bit differently just so that we can see the longer phrase a little bit, okay? So what do we have here really is a super long phrase. And if you look a little closer, what this is kind of like, it's 4-part harmony. This is 4 voices, right? And then with a kind of very evocative top line, but even if you hear his recording, you can see he plays it pretty steadily. So it's kind of a little bit chorale-like, almost, I would say, if I may. So, also, what is very important to mention, already right now I'm going to mention that, and that is that actually doesn't exist a manuscript of this piece. At least I'm quite sure personally he would have written it down, because as you're going to see when we go through this, it's so particular in terms of voice leading and things like that, that I'm pretty sure he wrote it down. But it doesn't exist a score so far, and And so what we have to use is his recording, and some parts that the sound is not so clear. So we're, of course, I'm very grateful for all those people. There's several editions. Many people have contributed by actually writing this into the music. Of course, there's some detail, and to be fair, especially the little scale bit that we'll talk about later, it's very blurry, the sound. But luckily, in recent time, you can actually go on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you can hear Barrios plays on Sueño and La Floresta. You can hear original recording that's been very well restored. So at least I think actually with this restoration I could. But anyway, I mean, you can really listen to that for hours and hours and try to figure out what he's doing. Of course, if we would have had a score from him, that would have been really interesting. But in any case, we're because of the tradition, the time people before us have written it down, and now we can hear the recording. Here we are, no problem. Anyway, what's going on now in this intro here? I love this intro. It's very special. What do we get? Let's forget about the melody. Now let's see what's going on here with the tenor, the bass tenor and alto voice continues to C, G, E, and then D, D7 with the A sharp. Let's make an augmented chord, and then so brilliantly, of course, that we have those harmonics. How wonderful! So what's going on here is that these lower voices all go up. There's no. This is a bit. I mean, if we would have written a more traditional chorale, we'd try to make more counter movement. But what you see here. All right, and if we look particularly here at the second string and the fifth string, this is a kind of a third plus an octave. Okay, so the same that Tariga uses in Lagrima. That kind of. Of course, here there's more voices. Anyway, we can. So we get a very powerful force, almost like it's like going up very gradually, like opening up. But then, what is perhaps the kind of what makes this not just another piece of music, but a true masterpiece is. Look at this detail. So what is the melody doing? I was telling you the lower voices are going up. The melody right? Then counter this by having little strips like this of notes, each time extended, you see? And what we get is a long phrase, but in this music here, I tried mark what I call sub-phrases. And this is really important. We have sub-phrases, we have phrases, and then we have sections, etc. But this is, as we're working on music, I always recommend write these out. It will help you tremendously to keep the music clear in your mind, in your memory. All right, so. Alright, so fabulously done, actually. Magic. This is incredible music. Of course, you can question my sub-phrases here. You could also, I mean, when he goes down from the high D here, in a way you can, like the whole thing is a phrase, you could also kind of just think it like this, or even you could kind of just think it as a one long phrase, and also sub-phrase, sorry, because the whole thing, this is the key actually to, in my opinion, to the interpretation of this intro, is to, although they have sub-phrases, we need to feel that I hope I was making, so I'm in a way, there are sub-phrases, but I really feel the long phrase. This is built up, especially in terms of dynamics, that my loudest point was basically, you know, here in the middle where we had the highest notes, and then, so I was making I was paying attention to the sub-phrases and to the long phrases. And this is something that in interpretation, this is the kind of things that give kind of clarity to your interpretation, in my opinion. All right, what does he do? He repeats this, but in the second ending, so he did this kind of augmented, this is very kind of 19th century. You have that Regondi, love that chord too. Pay attention to it. It's a kind of, it's the like a dominant 7, but the 5th is augmented, so it kind of becomes kind of an augmented 6th chord anyway. And what does he do? In the second repeat, whoa, he goes to B major. And of course, if you would have gone from D7 and then to, that's a bit of a unsmooth change, but because of that chromatic A sharp, he ends up very well in B major, which then opens us for a kind of a contrasting section here, which is in E minor. Wow, this is so beautiful. What's going on here? In the beginning, you can see he was really spacing this chord. See, it's like leaving space in between each note, okay? And that's really creates that kind of rich sound. Now, in the contrasting section, it's very excellently done. You see, he does the opposite. He chunks them all together, and there's only 3 voices. First 3 strings get to sing out here, but all together. So what a wonderful contrast. Again, what an incredible kind of poetry and detail that this composition has already, already in that first intro. And then he goes on, he likes this little bit chromatic movement, which makes it, of course, not really like Bach or anything like that. It makes it very hymn, really. And then, he gets back to the 4 voices with a full kind of standard cadence here. Right? This could have been a Bach chorale. Alright? Wow. So that's not just an intro, it's like a whole piece on its own, in my opinion. It's like a whole little, I don't know what, it's more than an intro, I tell you. Martin, thanks Johannes, great rendition of one of the Barrios masterpieces. Thank you. Always supporting your support for Agustin, and thank you as always for your excellent rendition from Rodriguez Barrios. Is that perhaps a relative? What a performance, really good. Thank you so much. Well, I hope you guys find this as interesting as I do. Of course, this is now a little bit very much for the guitarists and I'm showing the music here, but I hope you're enjoying sort of my passion for this kind of analytical aspect for looking at this piece. All right, so you can again see how you can see the second part here is less of a big line, it's more individual lines also. Because this saying that again, of course this is, I would do this, put a big, put a long, it's also one long, I mean these are really the sections, but this is the kind of music where the phrases really are long, this is one of the features of this composition. And let's now talk what goes on after this kind of chorale like opening. So it has 1, pay attention to this because we're gonna compare the form to other sections later. So he has the main, his major, G major, and repeats it. In the second ending, he goes, modulates, that's the parallel key, but he goes with the dominant of the parallel key. He's now in E, and then goes back to G. And what do we get then? whoa, what was that? And what is basically happening here, he's giving us G minor. So he's shifting the main key to G minor, but in a very, very subtle way, because slowly. Because in the beginning it's just D's, so it could have been anything. But this is another spot. I'm not gonna bore you to death with this, but this is again because we don't have the score. So actually here it's quite unsure whether this should be written in 3/4 or 4/4, because you see either works. Because to be honest, when I hear the recording, and anyone else who can listen better and find some other pointer, but for me it's really almost like it's really not about three. It's a very, very long phrase. So in a way we don't even care about accentuating the bars, because we're really phrasing in these 3 long bars. But you can see now it's in 4. It could also have been written in 3. That would have worked too. Anyway, I like to keep it in, think of it as in 4, because then when we now get to the tremolo section, that is in 3. So and for me the 3 is not really clearly revealed until here, because this is still, it's almost like it doesn't really have, it's just right, it's kind of, and now we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is so lovely. It's like kind of a nocturne-like, but not. It's really sometimes. I mean, I would really insist that it's in 3, because there's a few additions. But again, that incredibly hard work to notate everything. I don't want to sound like I'm just being disrespectful, but it should really be in 3, because 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and sometimes it's been looked upon as in 6/8, but no, so this is kind of a. But some nocturnes are also in 3, and it reminds me of a kind of nocturne. And of course, I can't help myself also thinking about the Reverie Nocturne, but I doubt that Barrios knew that one. But for sure he knew Recuerdos, and as mentioned before, the original title was Souvenir d'un rêve, so a memory of a dream. So again, Recuerdos is in 3, so although this is a whole different story. Now what I've done here, have a look here, I hope it's not too small. Maybe it's hard to see on the phone. I don't know, I tried to screen that up. When you have a rendition and you see, of course, it's, if you look here, this is when you have the tremolo, you get so many notes, and you can only fit like 2 bars per line or 1 bar per line. So to help understand better the music, I like to, so I simplified it here. What's really going on. So this is the tremolo without all the notes, it's just, so if we look at the melody, starts in G major, so G major, D, and then he does this little very charming kind of appoggiatura, like chromatic, a little bit, very charming. So so in opposite to before, this line, if anything, it's more kind of normal. It's just sort of goes like this a little bit. It goes up and down, and using those. It's lovely. And then what you get, it's kind of a sequence, although it's not quite a sequence, but it's like a modified sequence. And I think this, wow, that is quite dramatic. You see, he goes from that G to the D, and that sounds. If you're. Wow, it's such a wonderful jump. So he gets basically 1 phrase, another phrase, and the third one, it's kind of more, goes really high. and then you get kind of a fourth. So this is quite standard ways songs or pieces fall, you know. So I'm not claiming here that Barrios was sitting down there and measuring this with some kind of calculation. Rather, this is just kind of a very natural flow, you know, of music. But especially this kind of music that takes these romantic long phrases, and it's often done by sort of plateaus. You have one phrase and one goes higher, and then one goes higher, and then you get, after the third one, you get this phrase which is kind of, then again brings it down, and then in the has for and note here, this is what I want to point out. What's going on in the same structure actually as the intro? You have one part and you have a repeat, first ending, second ending. So although thematically this music is not the same as the intro, but it follows a very similar kind of framework. So it starts in G, and then in the repeat it again has that augmented, so it goes from dominant 7 and put chromatically through the augmentation, moves to back first to G, but then in the second ending, same as in the intro, you will move from and then end up on the dominant of the parallel key. And so what you're noticing here is that this intro is more than just an intro. It's almost like, in a way, it's a vague kind of variation. It's not variation because it's not the same material, it's not the same amount of bars, but he's following the same outlines. And this is, again, what I think makes this piece such a masterpiece. It's so well designed, and although we might not notice it kind of as we're hearing it, it creates a subconscious feeling of unity. Okay, so the same what happens after going to that B that we talked about before, and remember how it's now he goes almost bitter a little bit, and the melody is very chromatic, and it moves a very small space. Before it was moving a lot. Now you can see it here. Actually, we can do it like this. I know there's some comments there, sorry I'm talking so much, but let's just check out a little more in detail this lovely melody. B here, starting B. Oh, and then chromatic. It's very sad, that one, but then, you know, this moving from sad to, and the so it really goes very sad, this in the tremolo here, with this sad and very chromatic and putting everything. And now and also notice again we get this kind of this kind of third in an octave, this kind of that we had in the intro. You're kind of getting this feeling again already before here. So it is this, and then and then after going there in this very sad E minor, instead of making a kind of like in the intro was the cadenza, but what happens here is that instead he's kind of gets stuck in the dominant 7, in the 5, and bursts out in this section, which this section really is in 6/8. And what kind of madness is this? This is very kind of 19th century romantic. You have a pedal, and that's another thing about this piece. A lot because of this natural tuning, we get a lot of pedals in this composition, and we already had quite a few examples here in the beginning. We're gonna get even more of that, and here it starts really pedaling, and then it's just kind of moving over this kind of using these awesome chords. Really enjoy your use of space in the music, Johannes. Always find it difficult to stop the pulse pushing me forward, from Rob. Absolutely. Steve Edwards, Barrios. Don, I think this first tremolo phrase is meant to sound like rock bye baby on the treetop. Yes, when I play it, usually the first time I go soft, and in the second repeat I go a little bit louder. About the space, yes, and thank you for saying that about the space. Yeah, this is one of the important things about really being very clear for yourself in your interpretation. Where are your phrases? Because here's a new phrase, we need to give the people that listen, and need to give the music the time, If you would sing this or something, you need to take a breath, or if you play on a violin, it's just music. It just needs a little time. It's psychology. We need time, shape it off, make it as beautiful as we can. About the 6/8, somebody said here. Thank you. Today we have a lot of interesting topics. This live stream could go on and on because I love this piece so much. Danielle, I'd like to know what are your criteria of playing and writing in 3/4, the 6/8 section. Thank you in advance. Well, 3, 4, and 6/8 is kind of the same length, but one is organized in 1 and 2 and 3 and the other one is in 1 and 2 and. So if this really would have been in, for example, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 and and if it's 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Otherwise it's 1 and. So it can of course play the 3/8 can play. This is ancient. Goes back this hemiolas. Okay, you have it in also in early music. You can play with the 3 and the 2, of course. But generally speaking, hearing his recording too, it's pretty straightforward. But now, this is really... because it's very clear that this is the beat. So it becomes a 6/8. And then, what is this? It's a sequence. But some editions they left out to notify that actually there's a G here both times. So it's not completely just parallel movements, which you of course can, which he does later when you have diminished chord, you can just move it around. But he's doing here's the dominant 7th. So of course you must understand this theoretically as a kind of a pedal with these different chromatic kind of shifts, but of course they have. But here it becomes, for some reason, I think because we're in G also, he just wants to give it a little more than G. Diminished chords against. He does that a lot. Diminished chord against a pedal. You can get away with a lot of stuff, but it's so dramatic how this section ends. And then opens up for this different section, whole different, which is in 2 now. So if anything, it's more similar to we had 4 in the beginning, but here we have 2. So because fantastic melody. And what's going on? Let's take a step back. Until now, the whole piece was mostly the melody was basically always on the first string. So what is so masterfully done here in terms of the architecture of this music is in the middle part here, melodies mostly on the third string, also 4. But so it's like from going on only on the first string, now we're and Barrios loved the third string. Of course, it's also very good, but this is also a little bit why this series of guitars, coming back to that, the guitars, is named also Sueño series, is also because I'm using the true temperament frets, and it's more than in a lot of other repertoires, it's very much, just need to tune it, it's very much favored in this piece because you have all this, which is already your finger can go out, it can already go out of tune, you know, but this having the true temperament is a great help. And that is again why this tribute to Barrios, this crazy adventure of the Sueño guitars, it became obvious to me that we should go with this. We should go with this system, which is just a little more precise, so that we can get more. Because here. I mean, here, if you hear his recording, this is really used a lot of vibrato, a lot of articulation, a lot of really, really beautiful singing, kind of cheesy guitar playing on the third string and the fourth supporting. But this is all just one. Again, we have these sub phrases. But in reality, they create a one long phrase. It is also important to know where the new phrase starts. You can always argue about this, that's part of interpretation, but what you can't argue with is that it's a good idea to decide. So he goes, new phrase. So it's just very simple harmonies. 5, 1, dominant, tonic mostly. Okay, and then it's kind of interesting again how we're getting a similar structure. He has a theme, repeats it. This time he's not using the A sharp to go on, but he's still using a second ending to go somewhere else. He does in the very full thing already here. Already you can see already in the third phrase is a kind of, this is a kind of E minor chord. And then with this wonderful, well, diminished chords. What's up with this diminished chord? This is before film music existed, but the diminished chord in Regondi. It's also, that is called reverie, right? So the dream. So I don't know, for me, maybe I'm overreading it. It's a bit like in Alice in the Wonderland, and if she falls into the rabbit hole. Is that kind of a way to, is the use of diminished chords in this way, that a way to create the kind of feeling of this confused state of the dream, so the confused state of reality, because the diminished chord kind of confuses the key basically, because we can also diminished chords, we can confuse and change key centers. Anyway, so he's going do. So wow, this is just such a fantastic piece. I mean, this is perhaps one of the most elaborate tremolo pieces ever, because it's so much more than a tremolo piece. So look what he did, these tremendous diminished chords, and now... And to be honest, this is the section on the original recording which is very hard to hear exactly which notes he plays. Anyway, this is what I think it is. But more than anything, no matter what the fingering, what really helps is when you have such a long scale run, okay? The best is to not... When I first learned this, I thought of it as one long phrase, and it really kind of freaked me out. What you need to remember is that, again, these have beats. You can hear that on the recording. For me, it really sounds like it's in 6 tuplets. Alright, that's what I hear. And once you practice it, and then... See, I'm practicing per beat, and then... This is very much what I talked about in my whole live stream about the scales and the importance of think of them as little strips, all right? Whether it's a shift or it's an octave, think of them as sections. And in this case, it's so very good to do it because it's in 6. And to be fair with you, listening to Barry's recording, you'll be very, very impressed. It's incredible how he plays here. I cannot play that fast, and it's almost very... because the quality of the recording is hard to hear, so it's quite impossible to reproduce it. For me, what this is, more than anything than, you know, if I put a slur there or which fingering I use, the effect is just going crazy, and we're getting this kind of fireworks of scales. Which and is very... And then, so... a lot of tremolo pieces will have an intro, a middle section, and then they will return to the original tremolo. Which we could have done. He could have done that, but no. We're going to a completely different tremolo section, this time in G minor. So, coming back to the intro where we had a brief moment of 4 bars, or 3 bars, in G minor. What is that? Is this maybe perhaps a little bit of a... is that kind of thing when you... Sometimes if you see a movie and you see it again, now you saw things you didn't see. I don't know. What this really represents in the beginning, and the fact that he's giving a little bit of G minor there, again, might just be a sign of a masterful architectural design, because it kind of gave a little bit of a pre-taste of this incredible section that is in G minor, back in 3. And here, what do you get? Look at this line. Do, di, do, di, do, do. It's so simple. It's just a scale, but it's G minor harmonic, okay? And what's going on in the accompaniment is just 1. It's just G, G, G. Very pure harmonies. And here, 4 with an A, which makes it a little bit like a 6. And then 5, 4, 5. So it's like a 1, 4, 5. But it's one, in my opinion, this part, starting here, this section, one of the best, most amazing parts in the whole guitar repertoire, in my opinion. Like the best of classical guitar. This section should be in it. keep playing, but I want to explain a little bit. So it's basically very simple. It's kind of like a sequence again. First phrase, da, do, di, da, da, do, di, da, di, dum. Then he goes again, same, but higher. So it's very similar what he does in the other sections too. This kind of going high, like he did in the intro, going higher. Very similar. And then we go da da and da da dee. Too small, sorry. See, again, it goes one time. Diminished chord again. Diminished chord. And this reminds a little bit we had at other time when you have that high and then go into the. So it kind of resembles a little bit what we had in the other one too. But you know, each again, it's a unique music. It's not variation. It's really a unique kind of music on its own. Which is again, it's I think what makes the dreamlike nature of this piece is that although there are sort of themes, they're very diffused and they're always changed. So what really is a theme in this piece is hard to say what is the main theme. It's all kind of derivative from each other, I would say, in my opinion. Now, what happens here after this, in this minor section? Because this minor section, it's modulating to G major, because actually the last tremolo section, like the first one, it had a G major and then a minor part. Here we have a minor and then a major part. Coming to that, here we have one of the most incredible and long lines in the whole guitar repertoire. After he go D to D, where we just now look at what's going on here. And this I was telling you about the pedals and the harmonies. Here, crazy amount of pedal. It's all just D's until here. All right? And here is where we got our beloved C. You see, my Sibelius software here warns me, says this doesn't exist on the guitar. So the standard guitar, no. So you need an extra fret. Let's have a look. So this is such an incredibly long phrase that it almost gives us a headache. So again, we can use subphrases. So you could say, because the full phrase is, oddly enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So mostly in this piece we have more even numbers, 4s and 6. Here. But you can of course say this is, so you can think of it as a 4 and a 3 and a 3, for example. Let's hear it. So this is when you go. So again, in your musical interpretation, before this section, you really need to take some time. Even if this chord, yes, it becomes the dominant, it's A major, first inversion, which is the dominant, but still the beginning of the phrases. Oh my god. So for me this is really kind of a proof. Look, Barrios, he was really stretching the limits of the possibilities about what you can do on the guitar. Dwayne, maybe you left already. Catching a few minutes during my lunch break. Yes, I will. They asked me about score. Actually, what I did, just for this live stream, I've set my own here. It's not perfect yet, but sure, if anyone I'm happy to share that. I'd like to know what microphone. Well, actually, I'm using the same as I always do. These are Swedish microphones called CM3 or something like that. But good sound card. Yes, for live stream, this is the best I figured out so far. So thank you for thinking it's good. always be, of course, in live. If you were here live, you could hear the sound in another way. But you know, here we are. I'm so glad you are here. By the way, though, what happens? Do we remember that in the middle section we had a bit on the third string, the melody, and what a wonderful contrast that is. Now, what he's doing, you remember I said in the last tremolo section, there is also two parts, just like in the first one. And the first one was a minor. And then now the major part, which you could say turns, you could say it's kind of a coda, or I would say turns into a coda. Because what we get is a lovely little bit. Again, this is unusual for tremolo, but the melody is actually in the thumb, on the third string again. Again, the use of a kind of sequence, but not really, creates that kind of... And again, similar repeats. And then, this is perhaps after... This is very simple, it's 4 bars. But actually, again, this is what I love about Barrios. You start looking at it, there's so much lovely detail. Like here, it's the second time, the actually soprano and alto here, it's singing together. Wow! And then here in this part here, you get this. So melody goes in this very lovely kind of syncopation. Kind of almost pianistic in my ear, but of course with the tremolo. Sorry. Repeat. And now, repeat, he uses diminished chord. Again, maybe it confuses. The diminished chords helps to kind of create, in my opinion, maybe that dream-like state. And then he bursts out here again. It's not quite the theme. It's that we had on the third string, but now it's in the tremolo, but a little different. So again, it's kind of it's not a theme, it's more like many variations of the same theme. Because the other time was... And now it's... And then it's almost like it's gone, you know? And now, here's something quite remarkable when we get to the B minor here. He uses octaves in together with the third string. Of course, we know this kind of virtuosic runs of scales in tremolo, but this is different. It's in the middle of a tremolo setting, so of course it kind of really sticks out anyway. All right, and there it's kind of, so this really brings, I think, from the, it really is a coda. And to be honest with you, he could have easily finished there, but no, because he wants to push everything to the limits. And I mean, like a dream maybe, or whatever it is. I think he just wanted to make this incredible piece, basically. And although it's only like, I mean, in his lifetime, I don't think nobody else than him played it. And that's also because nobody wanted to, and that's why he never wrote it down. So, but luckily, as I said, there's been so much great work done on notating these recordings. Instead of just finishing simply, no. He goes on one more time, and here personally, instead of doing, I do harmonics. Not to the C, but almost the whole. My God, what an end! What an end! And what a wonderful composition! Wow, that was a lot of information, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for being there. Wow, that was more than an hour. Thank you guys so much. It was a great pleasure for me to share with you one of my absolute favorite pieces of music, and also very excited. Actually, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna play this much more because this guitar is for sale. I use a bottomless shirt. It's absolutely impeccable, and I mean this spruce, the moon spruce that you get from this microclimate in Switzerland, every year the winter's very similar. So I mean, when I first got this piece, it was almost like white, you know, it's crazy, and we really worked on getting the contrast with a very dark wood to just get a very superstar guitar. Anyway, thank you so much. So that was my favorite piece, and it's such a favorite piece that it's even named my whole line of guitars. So this is the sueño la floresta on the sueño limited edition Muller guitar. You guys have a wonderful